and no one has been paying attention to or been investing, and no one. Okay, starting a new one at 10 a.m. We're just restarting the stream, live stream, at 10 a.m. at my house on March 25th, 2026. We are still just as in progress, and the police have not, or I am, guys, like glitch out of this. Probably. I don't know, I'll look for mascara that's not ending up in my eyes. Everyone was now shopping online. Tiffany was enjoying her second chance at building a business. You can actually use those. I was thinking those up with your business is predicated upon talking through what that's like. I learned myself to be the hair coach all the way.
Today, we're going to tackle a question that honestly sounds like it's been ripped straight out of a spy movie, but its roots are actually deep in the physics of our wireless world. We're going to explore what 5G is really capable of. And I'm talking about things that go way beyond just faster downloads on your phone. We're asking a pretty simple question that has a very, very simple. So, let's get right into it. Okay, let's just put the main question right out, because it's probably why you're here. Can a wireless network, think 5G cell tower, actually detect your physical body, your presence, even if you've left your phone at home? No watch, no earbuds, no device on you whatsoever. It's a really unsettling thought, right? It kind of challenges everything we assume about being anonymous in a world that's so connected. And that's the exact mystery we're going to unravel. So, the short answer is, well, it's complicated. And listen, if you take away only one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this. We have got to separate what is theoretically possible in a controlled lab from what is actually deployed out there in the real world today. The gap between those two things is huge, and that's where the real story is. To really get to the bottom of this, here's our game plan. First, we'll look at why this whole sci-fi idea isn't even new. Then we'll dive into the actual physics of how radio waves can see. After that, we'll explore what makes 5G so different before we hit a really critical reality check, possible versus deployed. And then, finally, and this is super important, we'll look at where the real risk is, which might not be what you think, and we'll peek into the future with 6G. Okay, first up, a science fiction question. Let's dig into the reality behind all the hype. So the first thing you have to understand is that this whole idea was not born with 5G, not at all. For years, researchers in university labs have been showing that you can use the boring old radio signals from your Wi-Fi router or your Bluetooth speaker for something called RF sensing. I mean, picture a lab with a Wi-Fi router on one side of the room and a receiver on the other. That's it. And by analyzing tiny, tiny changes in that signal, they've proven they can tell when a person walks into the room, they can track their movements, and even spot gestures like someone waving their hand, all without a single camera and with that person carrying absolutely nothing. They can even see movement behind solid walls, just by being clever about how they interpret those everyday signals. So how on earth does that work? Well, that brings us right to our next section, the physics of seeing. Now that we know it's been done with Wi-Fi, let's get into the basic science of how a simple radio signal can reveal so much about the world around it. So what are we talking about here? The official name for this is RF sensing. Now, the big difference between this and, say, traditional radar is that RF sensing is usually passive. See, a radar system has to actively scream a powerful pulse of radio energy out and then listen for the echo. RF sensing, in this case, is much quieter. It just uses the signals that are already filling the air around us. The Wi-Fi, the cell signals, it doesn't need to shout. It just has to listen very, very carefully to how those existing signals bounce and bend and break as they move through a room. Okay, take a look at this. This visualizes the whole principle perfectly. A radio signal, it doesn't just travel in one straight line from a tower to your phone. No, it bounces off of everything. Walls, the ceiling, furniture, and, you guessed it, people. This creates this incredibly complex web of signals that all arrive from different paths. Engineers call it a multipath pattern. Now, see the person moving through that field of signals? Your body, which is mostly water, is really good at reflecting and absorbing radio waves. So as you move, you change the timing, the strength, and the phase of multiple signal paths all at once, creating this unique ripple, this disturbance in the pattern that a sensitive receiver can actually pick up and analyze. And that's the whole magic trick right there. Just think of the air in any room as being filled with this invisible, complicated web of radio waves. And any movement you make, no matter how small, standing up, opening a door, it suddenly changes that web. I mean, in lab settings, researchers have used this to detect the tiny movements of a person's chest just from their breathing. If you have sensitive enough gear and some smart machine learning, you can analyze those tiny signal changes and figure out what caused them. And again, this isn't a security flaw, it's not a hack, it's just physics. How radio waves interact with the physical world. Which brings us to the big one, 5G sensing superpowers. Okay, if Wi-Fi can already do this stuff in a lab, then what's the big deal about 5G? Why is it a potential game changer? Well, this slide breaks it down perfectly. Compared to your Wi-Fi router or an old 4G tower, a modern 5G base station is on a whole other level. Instead of just a couple of antennas, they have dozens, sometimes hundreds. That means they can get a much higher resolution picture of the radio environment. And they don't just blast the signal out of a wide cone anymore. They can form these super narrow, steerable beams. It's like going from a floodlight to a laser pointer for sensing. They also use much wider bandwidths, which lets them spot smaller changes more precisely. And they have incredible control over signal space, which helps pinpoint where reflections are coming from. Every single one of these upgrades makes 5G hardware, at least in theory, a way, way better sensor. Let's quickly break down these key technologies. First, you have massive MIMO. That stands for multiple input, multiple output. All it really means is using a giant array of tiny antennas that all work together. Now, its main job is to send more data to more people at the same time. But the side effect is that it gives the base station this amazingly high-res view of the space around it. Think of it like this. It's the difference between your eye and a fly's eye. A fly has a compound eye with thousands of little lenses, giving it this incredibly detailed picture. More antennas in massive MIMO act like those extra lenses, letting the tower see where signal reflections are coming from with way more precision. The second superpower is beamforming. This is the ability to use all of those antennas to electronically steer a focused beam of radio energy right at your phone, instead of just wasting energy broadcasting it everywhere. For calls and data, this is awesome. Less interference, stronger signal. But for sensing, it's like having a movable, high-powered flashlight in a pitch-black room. You could, theoretically, sweep these narrow beams across the space, measure the reflections from each spot, and then stitch all that information together to build a really detailed, almost radar-like map of whatever's in there. Now, when you put all of this together, you get what researchers officially call JCAS, which stands for Joint Communication and Sensing. This is really important to know. This is not some fringe conspiracy theory. It's an active, well-funded area of research for the future of wireless. It's the official name for the idea that the exact same signal and the exact same hardware can do two jobs at once. The obvious job of communicating and a much less obvious job of sensing the world around it. And now, for what might be the most important part of this whole explainer. Section 4, possible versus
You can use it to rate people.
This is our critical reality check. This is where we take all the mind-blowing potential of the technology and ground it back in the reality of today's live networks. So, if the tech is so powerful in theory, why aren't cell companies secretly tracking people with it? Well, this slide lists the very real, very practical reasons why not. First, and this is a huge one, access to the raw radio data you would need to do this is locked down tight in commercial gear. The operator just can't get to it. Second, these base stations don't just run any old software. They follow super strict standardized profiles from a global body called 3GPP. And guess what? People sensing is not in the 5G standard. Third, this isn't some switch you can just flip on. It would take an insane amount of dedicated processing power and constant complicated calibration for every single cell site. It would also cost a fortune to run, and maybe most importantly, it would crash into a giant wall of legal, privacy, and regulatory problems. These are not small issues. They are fundamental roadblocks. So this lets us shift gears and talk about what we should actually be thinking about. Section 5, the real risk, software. It's time to move past this idea of a hidden radar network. You see, the biggest change 5G brought to the table wasn't just more antennas. It's a deep architectural shift in how networks are built. We're moving away from the old days where every network function was burned into a piece of fixed
Breakfast Baphomet. It's got like, it's like double in a suit. It's like a good Baphomet with these big horns. He's sitting at the breakfast table with chicken. Think it's funny? Not the least.
The software-defined network. And that creates a really interesting security
Carlos is
risk, which this slide lays out perfectly.
It's the base.
On our phones,
Yeah, that's actually just more or less like
we have strong encryption, better identity
blue
protection.
sketch.
But at
Yeah.
the infrastructure level, this new flexibility brings classic IT problems. More software means more places for bugs to hide. More complexity means a higher chance for human error, for someone to misconfigure something. And it's this exact flexibility that could allow for these dual use capabilities to emerge. A feature designed to optimize a beam for a better phone call could, in theory, with the right software changes, be repurposed to analyze signal reflections in a way it was never meant to. That is the subtle long-term risk. So the risk isn't some secret 5G feature today. Where is all this actually going? That brings us to our last section.
Hydrate, not live your
Sensing in the
enemies.
6G world. Okay, this is the real takeaway for understanding the future. If you go and read the research papers and industry white papers about 6G, that's the next generation of wireless that's on the drawing board right now, you'll see that RF sensing isn't some secret side effect. It's an explicitly listed foundational feature. It's being designed into the standard from day one. The conversation has totally shifted from could we do this to how should we do this? And what are the proposed uses? Well, for the most part, they're actually pretty beneficial. We're talking about things like super precise indoor location tracking for robots in a factory, way better than GPS. They're imagining smart homes that can automatically adjust the lights and the heat based on where people are in the room to save energy. They're even proposing emergency detection systems, maybe for an elderly person's home, that can detect if they fall without them needing to wear any kind of device. These are the positive applications being planned. But of course, the same tech that detects a fall could also just detect presence, which is why we need to be talking about the rules now. And that leads us to this quote, which I think just reframes the entire issue perfectly. 5G is the transition phase. 6G is where this conversation really belongs. Just think about that for a second. 5G built a flexible software-based foundation, the advanced antenna hardware, and laid
The kitten holding flowers.
6G is where the applications, including sensing as a core service, are actually planned to be built right on top of that foundation.
Stickers.
So we'll end with this final thought. Look, the real concern isn't that some 5G towers
I know,
will be watching
they're like
walk down
decals,
the
they
street.
just matter, they're actually
Practical
just like
evidence
on
of that
purpose.
just isn't there. The
They do
real
last time.
long-term question that we as a society need to start talking about right now is this. As our physical environment itself becomes a massive distributed sensor network, what are the new rules we're
What are you looking for where you found the
consent
audacity?
for security? The technology is being built out in the open.
The kitty.
Policy and the
You could
ethics
put them
have
on
to be built
mugs.
right alongside.
You very much
That's
could,
the
which is
conversation
kind of
we're
fun.
having. Thanks for tuning in.
They're fine that way, they're actually gonna use cool. It's 88 cents. Oh, God, I'm an idiot. Seriously. What's it? There's a couple of them, the sites, the like screen printing sites. And I love those, those are fun.
New Redken acidic growth full system, break less, see a fullness of up to 5,000 more hair fibers.
I was right out of money then when I ordered it, their quality was great. But it's
Instantly thicker, fuller looking hair. Your hair to its fullest
you can get
power.
screen printed any picture you want. Cosmetic bag, vacuum of photosynths. Emergency thermal blankets, 15 pack. You think my other options are, oh my God.
The NASA mission is now underway, but pilot Kurt Stallings is interested in something other than outer space.
On a clear day, you can see hundreds of miles in every direction. It's actually a beautiful view. With our current mission of these large storms, when the lightning lights up below you, it's really fantastic.
Awesome.
It's all about light. Light flying just above a storm cloud allows researchers at the U.S. Space Agency to analyze lightning and its effects on the atmosphere.
Lightning is difficult to study because it's a very transient phenomenon. It can be done in well under a second, but it can take on many forms.
Lightning has fascinated scientists through the ages, but in recent years, there's been some real breakthroughs.
That's like a box that keeps opening up.
I don't know. Oh. It's 5G canceled. Super secure. Well, that's great, really, yeah. You lost your, Jesus. Ow.
Do you understand?
That when bodies in the body, inside the mystery of 200,000 in Houston's waterways. Watch that.
In the hills of West Virginia, on the banks of the West, they're saying the building that is not asked
I mean, I have to go see
it
this.
demands. Rising from the earth in pale blue sandstone, its Gothic spires pierce the Appalachian sky.
The disturbing
Its facade
story of America
stretches
is
nearly
this haunted asylum
1,300
trans
feet
element.
from end to end.
Always
Its
talking
central
about
clock
that.
tower
I didn't buy it. Studio 354. The place that made or destroyed Studio 54. Featuring Grace. God, I miss this. Couldn't see this in the rock.
In 1977, a nightclub opened in New York that would destroy some of the world's most beautiful women and make others into legends. Studio 54 opened its doors and drew a line in the city. Outside, winter coats and disappointment. Inside, heat, light, and a room that fed on attention. Behind its velvet robe, supermodels found a playground where rules fell away. White powder sat on tables like spilled sugar. One wrong step could cost a career. Two women crossed that threshold again and again. Grace Jones left behind.
When John D. Rockefeller
If you had just 24 hours to leave the United States, where did you actually go? Not just to visit, but to live, work, and have an actual solid exit plan if the situation in the US gets any worse. Well, I got countries where US citizens can land tomorrow with no pre-arranged visa, no job offer, and no massive investment required. You get 6 months to a year on arrival, and some let you work remotely, and a few even offer direct paths to citizenship. So I'm going to walk you through all of them in this video, with the exact income requirements, how long you can actually stay, and which ones are.
that's the right phrase about there. You think about there, you think of what? Second best. When something has been considered second best for so long, we just finally accept it as gospel.
A decade-long plot built on marketing, social media.
Or we call it documentaries.
It was a bad person.
Yeah, I said, just ago,
It's paid.
don't correct me.
And our real long-term planning plans versus temporary savings. And if you're around to the end, one of these countries has a 70-year-old treaty. that
I think it gets worse.
So our country gives US citizens a full year of visa-free entry. You just show up, you get stabbed in for 365
Most
days.
definitely cat injury.
No application, no fees, and no.
You die and you go where you got money.
It's about the equivalent of 700 euros a month to live comfortably. They don't require you to give any official proof for entry.
In the space
So
of
if you are planning to stay a full year, you will need to show that you can support yourself. Question. And the great thing is that US citizens can legally work remotely in Albania during their visa-free year. Albanian law grants Americans the same important rights as local citizens, so you'll be covered for remote work without needing to have any additional permits. Now, after your year is up, you wouldn't need to leave Albania for 90 days minimum before you can return for another year. But while you're over there, you can also apply for a residency permit if you want to stay longer without leaving. And this temporary residency permit needs you to provide proof of income, health insurance, and either a lease or property ownership. And that temporary residency permit runs for 1 year and it's renewable. And after 5 years of continuous legal residency, you'd be eligible to apply for Albanian citizenship if that was something you wanted. Cost of living here is legitimately cheap. You're looking at around 700 euros a month for a single person. Keep in mind that the Adriatic coast is more expensive during summer, but it's still going to be below typical Western European prices. So what's the catch here? Well, Albania isn't in EU or Schengen at the moment. So this doesn't give you broader European access. It just gives you proximity. It's a landing pad for Albania specifically, but it's not a gateway to the rest of Europe. What it does do is give you time and affordability if you need to get out of the US. But there's another deal option which has even better tax treatment and a thriving digital nomad scene. Let's take a look at that one next. Georgia uses a territorial tax system, so if you spend over 183 days in the country and become a tax resident, you would only be taxed on Georgian source income, with foreign income being tax-free. And there's a 1% tax rate that applies to individual entrepreneurs with small business status, who are earning up to the equivalent of approximately $180,000 US per year. And Georgia is also one of the only countries that the US State Department has confirmed that leaving and re-entering the country resets your 365-day clock. So you could technically stay in Georgia indefinitely by doing these visa runs every year. Although I would recommend consulting with a tax professional if you're planning to do this long term. And if you want to formalize your stay, you can also register as an individual entrepreneur in Georgia, which takes about a week, costs around $100, and gives you a renewable residency permit that counts towards permanent residency after 5 years. Georgia has recently become a hub for digital nomads and tech workers, so there's solid infrastructure in place and co-working spaces in major cities like Tbilisi and Baku. One detail worth noting is that Georgia has a favorable tax environment for crypto. So if you're an individual, but not a business, who is holding digital assets, then Georgia currently doesn't tax those gains. In short, both Albania and Georgia are great options because they give you a full year to figure things out. But the downside is that neither one is particularly close to home if you're in the US. And if you want something more familiar, where you can quickly return to the US in a few hours, then the next country on the list is an obvious choice. Now we're going to look at the 6-month options, and starting with Canada. So in Canada, a US national can get 6 months on arrival as a tourist without any visa. And according to the 2023 Tech Talent Strategy, remote work for a non-Canadian employer is allowed during this period. So you can stay for up to 6 months and carry on working remotely for your US or other foreign employer, as long as it's not Canadian, without needing a work permit. But you can't work for a Canadian employer or Canadian clients or any Canadian source income without getting a proper authorization. So the catch here is that Canada doesn't really offer an easy long-term path for those who are working remotely. Yes, you can apply to extend your visitor status, but there's no guarantee of approval. And in reality, most permanent residency pathways tend to favor candidates with Canadian work experience or job offers. And without a Canadian employer sponsoring you, your options narrow very quickly. And of course, tax residency is another concern here. If you stay for 183 days or more in a calendar year, then Canada may consider you a tax resident, so you would owe Canadian taxes on your worldwide income. And you've got to be careful because even shorter stays trigger tax residency if you establish significant ties like renting a home long term. So definitely get tax advice if you're thinking of going down this road. So Canada is a useful state for short-term proximity. But there's actually another option, almost just as close, that gives you a path to permanent residency and costs. So next up, we have Mexico, which gives US citizens stays of up to 180 days on a tourist card. Although the immigration officer does have discretion and may give you fewer days based on what you tell your plans are. So remote work on a tourist visa does exist in the great area. Technically, it's meant for just tourism, but many digital nomads do carry on working remotely for foreign employers without issues for short stays. But if you do become a tax resident, which normally happens at 183 days in a calendar year, or if Mexico becomes the center of your work interest, then you may be taxed on your work visa. And if you do want to stay longer than 180 days, you need to apply for a temporary residence visa. And you can actually apply for this as a Mexican consulate with proof of either $3,500 to $4,000 a month income for the past 6 months, or minimum of $70,000 in savings. And this visa is good for 1 year, and you can renew it for up to 4 years in total. And then, after 4 years on this temporary residency visa, you can then apply for permanent residency. So you can live in Mexico indefinitely, work for Mexican employers, and eventually apply for citizenship after 5 years of permanent residency. In terms of cost of living, Mexico's prices vary quite widely. In places like Mexico City, Playa del Carmen, and Tulum, you're looking at between $1,500 to $2,500 a month. The smaller cities can be done for $1,000 to $1,500 a month. And Mexico is the closest option to the US on this list that also offers a clear path to permanent residency, which matters if you've got family, business ties, or if you just want to stay within a few hours flight of home. The infrastructure in major expat hubs is pretty decent. You can find English speakers in tourist areas, and healthcare is good quality and affordable. Mexico gives you permanency options if you commit. However, if you want 6 months somewhere English speaking with zero paperwork, then here comes the next most obvious choice.
With Keratin Color by Schwarzkopf, create your next hair story and forget about breakage. With our professionally inspired bond enforcing system, get rich, striking colors on all hair types. Schwarzkopf Keratin Color. What story will you tell?
Some days just call for sweet treat, and that was today. Decided to go a little different and get edible arrangements. I also don't want to spend the time to see why I love and appreciate their options that are under $50. 10 out of 10, highly recommend, as always.
See what comes on the cheap clothes. Yeah, I mean, it'll be wearable. 4 pieces, men's, hooded, drawstring, quick dry, breathable, lightweight sports sweat. Size small, $13.73. And there's a 4-pack. Dark octopus Japanese art print t-shirt. Screen printing t-shirt. $4.05. There's like tons.
So I can see the world without getting left in the phone. Google Fly Wireless. Switch today.
That's not, I got a box of this stuff at school. The Dollar Tree stuff is fun, and this for $15 is great. That for $20 is great. The clothes for $25 is great.
Which is similar to the ESTA system that's in place for foreign entries.
More expensive clothes are
There's a simple online application that
Why
costs
nice.
£16 and it lasts for 2 years. And interestingly, as of January 2024, UK immigration actually clarified that incidental remote work is okay on a tourist visa, meaning that you can do things like check emails, attend virtual meetings, or work remotely for a non-UK employer during your stay, as long as this isn't the primary purpose of your visit. If you cannot work for UK companies, UK clients, or do anything that would look like you're entering the UK labor market. And unfortunately, you can't extend the 6-month period. When it's up, you have to leave. And keep in mind that while this visa technically allows up to 6 months,
$34.
if you stay longer than
That
90
looks
days,
nice.
it may trigger
$29.
scrutiny from UK border officials. They might be able to ask
The
more
new
questions
women's
about the
coats.
nature of your remote work,
That's pretty.
and whether you're effectively
Nothing
living
on
in the UK
embroidery is
or
like 3D.
and if you
That looks really
keep coming
nice.
back to your stay, it can increase the risk of refusal at the border, so be careful about that. The UK doesn't have a digital nomad visa at the moment, and it doesn't have any plans to introduce one as far as I know. So if you do want to stay longer than 6 months,
So there's the carousel, like, I'm looking at a carousel, all of a sudden it like goes splat, it squishes them. I think he's just dumping people in a trash compactor in the story, really, yeah. I know it's kind of quick. Well, wouldn't you make it kind of quick? I make it slow if I hated you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Need a place to land while you think about the next move. But It's not a longer term solution than that, unless you can get that work.
Don't say that. It was like the Holocaust or something, really, yeah.
This one is
I
in
mean, I
here,
cannot
and
imagine.
it has the same 6-month entry, but a much clearer path to staying there permanently. Next up, Panama.
But these guys are so psychotic or whatever.
It gives
Well,
residents
I think they just sort of-
180 days visa-free on arrival.
Yeah,
Remote work is
I'm not
legal,
sure.
And the country operates on a territorial tax
Oh,
system.
it's
so
the plan, it's like the
all
Holocaust.
income is taxed. And if you want to stay longer, Panama.
But I can have, I mean, just like the night, he squishes people slowly, and I'm like, you're such a flippin' mess, and like, good lord, they keep around as sex slaves and all this other crazy stuff, and like, to have sex with people, and well, it's interesting, and it's like, well, that's the whole story, but like,
But the second option, and one that's a lot more powerful, is the French.
let me get right into the High Castle story.
If you come from one of that.
It was theirs, but maybe, I mean, there's a lot of carrying on over there.
Firstly, securing employment with a Panamanian company, investing at least $200,000 in real estate, or depositing $200,000 in a fixed term account at a local bank, and holding it there for at least 3 years.
Look at see
This
my
process
selfies.
first grants you 2 years of provisional residency, and after that, you can apply for a permanent residency.
It's vintage at like cast iron stove.
3 years
That's it.
from start of permanent residency, which is pretty short, to be honest. Panama uses the US dollar as its currency, so you're not gonna have to deal with exchange rate risk. Cost of living in Panama City runs around $2,000 to $2,500 a month comfortable living. And outside the capital, you can live comfortably for $1,500 to $2,000 a month, depending on what your definition of living comfortably is. And Panama's location makes it a strategic hub for more travel throughout the Americas. Having the US dollar makes finances more simple, and the country offers a nice blend of modern city life in Panama City, and also various mountain trees and Caribbean beaches. So Panama offers this clear residency path in the Americas, but if your real goal is Europe, then there's one country that offers a 3-year digital nomad visa, and it's genuinely accessible, Spain, which launched its digital nomad visa in 2023. And this allows people who work remotely to apply for a residency permit in Spain. So first off, you need proof of at least 2,760 euros per month, the equivalent of, which is 200% of Spain's minimum wage as of 2025. So there's 2 ways to apply. You can do it from outside Spain as a consulate, which would most likely be in the US. And this gives you a 1-year visa that you can then convert to a 3-year residency permit on arrival. Another way in, and this is going to be probably more suitable if you're looking to get out of the US quickly, is to enter Spain as a tourist on a 90-day Schengen agreement, and then you can apply in country for a 3-year residency permit directly. And the in-country application is allowed specifically the digital nomad visa. And that's quite unusual because most EU countries actually make you apply for these visas back in the US at one of their consulates there, like Portugal, for example. So this is very convenient if you're looking to get out and to stay out and establish that longer term living situation. So what can you do on this visa? Well, first off,
Nine pink octopus.
non-Spanish
Jules and Cakes, minor pink octopus.
You can also earn up to 20% of your income from Spanish sources, which does give you a bit of flexibility.
So nice, in this game you can like,
Spain also offers the Beckham law.
it doesn't matter, they're your cooties now.
New residents.
You can fight with
And
the
this will
cooties.
significantly
You can make them replicate, but reproduce, replace, terminate, delete.
Up to 600,000 euros. And foreign passive income like dividends, rental income.
It's trying, like maybe somewhere. Copy and paste the bad guy away. I'm the samurai of copy and paste. I am the samurai of copy and paste anyway. Airbus.
So the Beckham law is mainly beneficial for
Cheap
employees
Airbus.
rather than freelancers or self-employed.
Look at my bags there,
If
right?
this is your situation, make sure you consult.
No, they'll go buy it.
for specific advice on this.
Bleach on sale, I'm gonna buy that, and then I'm gonna buy the good bleach.
So after
It's
5
like
years.
really
of
cheap,
work,
and it's good for
you can actually apply for permanent
Oh, it's a pink octopus and Jewel make out, yeah.
eligible
Then she eats
for
them.
But
Like
Spain
Sammy.
does require you to renounce your US citizenship.
I don't know. Oh.
And this is the legal
My dad gave back Sammy to rednecks, and I'm still not sure they were like piggy, that were very nice. But I'm still, it makes me sad. My mom said the same thing.
Most people maintain permanent residency.
If you bring the animal home, you have to take
rather
care of
than
it.
pursuing Spanish citizenship.
Sammy's our friend.
But again, if in doubt, then you should definitely speak to a Spanish immigration lawyer to find out what the options might be for you.
But if she was okay wherever you're
So
at, why is she
digital
like,
nomad visa is definitely one of the strongest and
I mean,
most
this sweet little thing was just a pet.
You
I play with the kids' pets, so does my dad.
Plus all the lifestyle benefits of living in Spain.
But I'm just afraid he's in like a box, right next to Stephen Smith, one of the boxes. He looks like he had a dog enclosures that he couldn't get out of.
So you may not know this, but the Netherlands has a treaty in place with the US that dates back to 1956, and it's called the Dutch American Friendship Treaty, or DAFT. And this allows US citizens to get a Dutch residency permit by starting a business in the Netherlands with a minimum investment of 4,500 euros. So you just register a business, deposit the funds into the Dutch business bank account, and apply for a residence permit as a self-employed entrepreneur. The permit is issued for 2 years initially, and you can renew it as long as you maintain the business. You know, you do need to actually run the business. It's not just a case of dumping that money in the bank and forgetting about it. But it's quite flexible with what the business can be. So you can do consulting, freelancing, or any legitimate commercial activity. There are many US citizens that use this to work remotely as contractors while living in the Netherlands. And after spending 5 years as a resident on the DAF permit, you can apply for permanent residency in the Netherlands. Keep in mind that in 2025, there's a proposed law going through Parliament that wants to extend citizenship requirement from 5 years to 10 years. Although that wouldn't take effect before 2027 and it would not be retroactive, as far as we know at the moment. Also important is that the Netherlands doesn't usually allow dual citizenship with the US in most cases, so you likely need to renounce your US citizenship if you actually wanted to become Dutch. The exceptions are if you are married to a Dutch person or in a registered partnership with a Dutch citizen. And because of this situation, most US citizens who are Dutch holders actually apply for permanent residency rather than pursuing citizenship, because that lets them keep their US passport and gives them more options. Keep in mind that the cost of living in the Netherlands is quite high. In Amsterdam, you're looking at a minimum of like 3,500 euros a month, if not more. And smaller cities are going to be slightly cheaper than that, but it's still definitely not a low cost of living country at all. The DAF Treaty is really interesting. It's one of the most underutilized immigration tools available to Americans who want to move to Europe, and gives you EU residency, access to the Schengen zone, and a path to permanent residency in one of Europe's most stable countries, all for just putting 4,500 euros in the bank and being willing to run a small business. So there's one more EU option where you can actually qualify with just savings as an alternative income. You don't need to run a business, and you pay zero tax on your foreign earnings for 18 months. So let's check that one out next up. So Croatia, very interesting case. In 2025, very recently, Croatia extended its digital nomad permit for a full 18 months, which makes it one of the longest stays in Europe for non-EU remote workers. And you can work either as an employee for a company, but it must be registered outside Croatia, so a US company would be fine. Or you can run your own business, but again, that must be registered outside of Croatia. As a US citizen, you can enter visa-free for 90 days, as in other Schengen countries, and you can then apply for the digital nomad permit either online or at a local police station in person while you're already in the country.
It's just a copy and paste program. That's why no matter what, if Lenny lets you in because he's on a tablet, say yes. Or computer. That's why it's a head. Or something. It says yes to hoochies and cocaine. And anything. Because and the dirty thing is going to go up its butt. It's a computer program. It doesn't. Yeah, I don't think it makes it happy. Yeah, it rips his head off afterwards as soon as he hates it. This story. Trash strike went well. Yeah. But they're all still here, so. I was watching something on hacking. The children are probably waving like Thomas the Tank Engine at them, I said. We're gonna go get checked on our SGA, Joe. Yep.
And criminal background check from the US, which you should be able to get from the FBI.
People aren't going to realize it's really unrooted. Probably, it's probably technology. You can get her too. She's nice to say like small.
This is important. Passive income, like investments, dividends, or rental income, may still be taxable in Croatia. Again, speak to a tax advisor about this. You're still responsible for your US tax return, as you have to do every year, but you wouldn't face Croatian income tax on your local earnings. But there is a catch, there always is, like This permit
Oh,
is not
no.
renewable after that, so after 18 months, you must leave Croatia for 6 months before you can reapply. And that
Well,
way.
once you're in, then you have to like wash everything, so
So.
there, then you're on, they were under Mr. Burns, and that was, he's a monopoly. You don't know what talking about, like, Deuce Connect, right? Yeah, no, I mean, it's not really that, he's just like, we need a Bryant or something. Are you getting too many to Bryant over there? Scary, a little when you get behind the page, it's pretty crazy to get invited to her.
Well, there's one more country that I'm gonna show you, it doesn't fit any
Yeah,
country.
no, it's just a cake pie.
In 2024, Turkey launched its digital nomad visa.
That brought you this week, so you have to probably not do that, but I've been on the street for the last, I got protected school.
You get 1 year initially, and that's renewable, and you can work either as an employee or for a foreign company, or you can run your own business registered outside Turkey. So apart from that, US citizens.
You didn't like
can
the RGS.
and save
You're
their
just, in a way.
So that gives you a good amount of time to explore before committing to a.
Things we have to WW, how to get the medicine in the patient, I'm calling it, how to be clean and white. I'm not sure. Clean and white. I get up for work. Wake happens.
So to get that,
I'm
you
not sure.
need income, health insurance, and then all property ownership. Istanbul is where most people first land when they get to Turkey.
What do you do with
Costs
that?
have gone up a lot in recent years, so you can look at
Too
around
preppy.
$2,000 to $2,500 per month for living costs now, which is really a big jump.
Well, you can clean it right.
5 years ago. Turkey's currency, the lira, is very volatile at the moment, so that means that the dollar can go further some months than others.
I need a Bryant.
That's not ended, it can be quite unpredictable. But the real draw of living in Turkey is the location. It really is excellent. You're just 2 hours from Europe, 2 hours from the Middle East, and you can even be in Central Asia in under 4 hours. Istanbul alone gives you 1 foot in Europe and 1 foot in Asia, literally. You've got Roman ruins, Byzantine churches, Ottoman mosques, and a startup scene that is more and more connected to both European and Middle East markets. So, if you wanted to get permanent residency in Turkey, then you would need to live there for 8 years continuously. You could also consider citizenship by investment, which is currently minimum of $400,000 in real estate. And some people do go down this road if they're serious about staying long term. But the wild card element is really staying here. Turkey's immigration policies are a bit unpredictable, especially in recent years. The economy does fluctuate a lot, and you're dealing with a country that is genuinely bridging two worlds, which does bring both opportunities and uncertainty. So I know a lot of you watching this are probably feeling a genuine sense of urgency about the possibility of leaving the US. And I totally get it. I've been there years before with Brexit in the UK. Maybe it's political, maybe it's the economy, or maybe it's just the sense that you need to have options and a backup plan in place. That sense of urgency is valid, but it's also important to be strategic rather than reactive. Take some time to match your destination country to what you actually need. If you want maximum flexibility and low cost, then I recommend going for one of the year-long options that I talked about. But if you need a path to permanent residency, then focus on the countries that offer that as a clear next step. If EU access is your goal, then we've got 3 solid routes in this video with different trade-offs. The great thing is that none of these options need you to have everything figured out before you go. And that's the whole point of the landing pad, right? You get your foot in the door, you spend time on the ground, you get to know the place, and you make a longer term decision based on what you actually experience. So because this can be confusing, I put together a free comparison guide of all the countries that we talked about in this video, with all the requirements, timeline, and costs, etc., side by side. So you can grab that free from the link in the description. My advice would be pick the country that solves your most immediate problem and actually move. And I've also put links to all the official government sources in the description below, so feel free to check those out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Have your W-2 and file your taxes 100% free, plus get your biggest refund. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. No schedules except for earned income tax credit, child tax credit, and student loan interest. File now.
Dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for this day and to be able to be together as a longtime family. Please bless this food and bless that we can clear the air tonight and just hopefully get even closer to there now. And and so this is disgraceful.
Whitney's prayer is hilarious. Another moment of Whitney's delusion. She's not a part of Mom Talk, but if she wants to ask for some help from the man himself, she can go right ahead.
You created here. There's no yeah. So just tell me, what is that and what was the purpose and message of that?
And the purpose is, first of all, it's like for voters, because it's like part of the voting campaign, so it's for voters. And it's supposed to bring one important problem back on the agenda. And it's very strange. I mean, everybody talked about the ticket, but nobody talked about the problem.
Well, the issue is,
Like, nobody talked about the real issue. And the issue is the murders of Magdeburg, Aschaffenburg, Mannheim, and many other things. A lot of, and this is very important. This is the main issue. That's why I'm really upset about this discussion.
So let's say, right, you don't know who received that. Let's say a migrant family who may be paying their taxes and working here for many years receives that in the mail. It's a one-way re-migration ticket for illegal migrants. That's a very scary thing to get.
Yeah, it's really says illegal migrant. So everybody who's here legally has nothing to fear.
It's been reported that this particular type of ticket was very reminiscent of what the Nazis did with the Jews, and this doesn't come from nowhere in the German context. How do you respond to that?
Also die Aktion sind mir nicht bekannt, ganz ehrlich gesagt, ich kenne die nicht, auch war mir nicht bekannt.
Bernhard told me the party wants to re-migrate over 1 million people. Some immigrants that German courts have already ordered to be deported, but most Syrian refugees.
We're talking about 1 to 1.2 million Syrians, which are in Germany. And of course, the civil war is over, so they have to go back.
Those people have now full established lives. They've got children in school, and they've got jobs.
They don't have jobs. They're not, most of them are not very integrated. That's exactly the issue.
German labor statistics show that over time, most Syrians able to work do get jobs. Bernhard and others continue to use the issue as a key talking point.
People who are not integrated are in the normally those who are not working, they're also not integrated in the working market and so on. So, and then if you switch off social benefits, they're going to go themselves because it's too expensive for them to finance their life here.
News of another story we're watching. This is out of Germany.
Around a month before Germans went to the polls, there was another high-profile attack, this time by an Afghan immigrant who had been slated for deportation.
2 people, including a 2-year-old boy, were killed in a public park in the central city of Aschaffenburg.
Wird ein 28-jähriger afghanischer Tatverdächtiger unvermittelt und gezielt ein Kind in einer Kindergartengruppe, die dort unterwegs war.
Things are very cool I look at this because this somehow is left upon by those who can see a profit in using it for campaigning the election.
Under growing pressure, the leader of the mainstream Conservative Party and frontrunner of the Chancellor, Friedrich Merz.
But yeah, once you take over, man. Once you take over, you're in the general systems, they're like trolls. Sometimes the cities don't agree with them, but they're friends of them.
It's something unprecedented, breaking the post-war convention.
I need to leave the old copy. I'm not sure I'm allowed to do that either. I was like, there's this thing, everybody's, well, because he said he's looking at his map, it's attacking me, saying he hasn't found it. Oh, okay. That might be illegal. It's okay, you're liberating concentration camps, but still.
History, because it changed what the Conservatives had said all along, that they would never work with the AfD and Vox. And to do it so shortly before the election, because of all kinds of signals.
Or criminal, but yeah. Yeah.
confused and very scandalized. Like, did that mean that after the election, suddenly mass would work?
Like Thomas the Tank Engine and planes often have people in their tummy. Let the cargo report. So there you go, the cargo report.
Right.
I don't know if I can get in that way. I think right now. Some Alice. Its name is Cronin's, I think. Yeah, that's how my people. This is an accidental name. It sounds German. Sounds like a toy. Please get away from children. But yeah, it sounds like a child's card game. Oh, I said Mr. Burns. Yeah, maybe you just send in secretaries and they copy and paste. The avatars change the secretaries. But I don't know, see. Nothing's come of it so far.
Working with the far right. Since World War II, that's the whole history of German politics. Right? So this is a very cool place.
Obviously, it is one next step.
You can't hide.
Let's do a quick thought experiment. You wake up, you check the weather, you drive to work, you have a coffee, you text a friend, then you drive home. Now imagine I can reconstruct your entire day. Where you went, who you were near, what route you took, what stores you went to, and which devices were around you, without ever hacking.
See, that's neat.
My whole life has been public service. It's about people.
Well, I could also like,
Work together.
I don't know, no, until the first game, that's the problem.
We don't always get everything we want, but that's our system of government, give and take. We don't give up.
Things you could do, you didn't get pension or something.
And when we break ground on the best first children's hospital, when crime rates.
Well, we're squishy, that's come up a lot, like your body's squishy.
That motivates me.
The other guy's squishy back. We showed up.
Oh, you like something.
You know what? It's a concern.
And you know who else?
Greatest concern. And you certainly can't do all this without, because this is embarrassing. For everything.
And then I'll share with you what you can do personally to stop or let it destroy. Because just don't do anything wrong.
Paparazzi's not gonna make me whatever.
But before we hit that list, we need to learn one concept. Modern surveillance, it isn't one tool, it's a stack. Think Lego bricks.
Well, pretty hell.
Another is.
It's a problem, really, yeah.
Social media screens. Another is license plates. Another is data rows. On their own, each brick works limited.
Most of the things judge just stop you from
They don't
getting
get a clue.
really arrested
They get a profile. And the fewer bricks companies have, the harder it is for them to track them. Number one, mass collection of communication. A key thing people misunderstand is the difference between targeted surveillance and bulk collection. Targeted surveillance is we suspect you, so we watch you. Bulk collection is we collect a lot because someday it might be useful. The reason that matters is simple. Bulk collection creates a time machine. Even if nobody cared about you in 2019, your name comes up in a case in 2026, investigators rewind. What accounts you use, who you talk to, which services you logged into, and what networks were involved. And the process often isn't a dramatic wiretap moment. It's paperwork plus databases plus queries, which leads to one of the most powerful surveillance ideas. Collect a ton of data, store it, and
Oh no, I took over all the militaries and all the police departments, and the State Department, CIA, took over as much stuff as possible. It doesn't matter.
And if you've ever thought, I'm not
Which makes me Alexander the Great. Then you like take out all that kind of thinking. Alexander the Great.
It's not just the cops that are tracking you, corporations.
I think the Ptolemies and everything.
Even if nobody hears your calls, your meditation.
It's just to get rid of Hitler. It's the Wells Fargo bank computer news story that can fire you. You can shoot you if you're getting
That
in trouble.
alone in that relationship.
I get in trouble over it.
Doctors, therapists,
Yeah, that's weird because like everything's like somebody's been running around singing "It's a Man in the High Castle" and it's like the Nazis. They've been running around like murdering people. Oh. Maybe it's just a story. He's maybe watching like an intro or something. I'm like, oh. It's not a candy shop, gentlemen. An ice cream giant. It's a concentration camp, and pedophiles. I've all got homicidal tendencies, psychopathic tendencies, or they're stalking and they got away with it. They stuff around, getting together with that.
Of relationships and routines. And once about social impact, you can connect with reason, not just who did it, but who they meet, and who else should have similar values. That's why metadata is often treated like a wider privacy.
It's all like, I think the nanocyclones detect and you start, most of they squish you to death in the gears, like you fall in the waterworks. Yeah, you fall in the vats like alive, and then they're in like water treatment plants and they have been forever, so they flush you down the sluice. A lot of times they just stick you down the hole, you go downstairs, and then it's just too much and then you die, and then you starve to death. You just die. Sometimes they shoot you on the ones that are all high functioning. Sometimes just throw you down your chute if they shoot you die. But you can mess with people as much as you want before they kill you. Right away, they like, we made replicant families in the story. I was like, okay, we'll make fake people to go in. Are you playing with children? I'm going to call the police. It's just like a conversation with one of these troll wars to fight these troll wars. Really? Okay. So they have to check for Nazi trolls. Yeah. Yeah. And just get there and everything. The computer wants to do it anyway. Its name is kind of a crackhead too or something. No. Crack and rum is a common male motif. 20,000 leagues under the sea. Yep. Octopuses.
This is the one that makes privacy advocates fall about, because instead of asking your cell phone carrier for your location, which would likely require warrants, they can just turn around and buy your location data from the same commercial ecosystem.
They make avatars. They did the same with avatars.
They vacuum your location data. Data brokers package it up, and government agencies buy access. The data.
Let's just gotta get in there. Oh, and we did for the Wells Fargo bank computer. That's the Chinese computer so far.
With location running. If the device sleeps at one address and it spends days at another.
So it can go check.
If it visits a clinic.
They put together this whole thing. You're supposed to like, he cuts its phone line. It goes into these like, you gotta get Motherboard back up in the witches and because tells the right people. The Nazis and man in the High Castle have just effed up at the poor things like communication system. They don't go too so in if they got trained, really, yeah.
So the cops able to come.
Most of them designed not to crash. That's correct. I'm surprised the plane didn't catch the. Really, the plane is very just.
But here's the one tactic that
It's right in front of it. You guys look at it.
policing inside.
They like to cross bridges. It's interesting.
Here's our suspect, give us their location. It becomes, here's a place and time, give us everyone's devices.
A lot of times they seem to get splatted in industrial machinery.
Because of location.
Well, we could do that.
Geofence warrants are controversial because they start with a big net.
I remember New Jersey too.
Step one is give us all the devices in this area.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they,
Step
whatever.
two, narrow it down.
They sell cotton gins. Now you don't get don't fall in the cotton gin. The mill. Don't fall in the mill splat. Don't fall in the mill splat.
Maybe your phone moved quickly because you were late.
That's really a crazy onion race memory. Okay. No, they find years and they don't actually fly out to be crushed. Shred. Well, it starts the chumming process. Somebody was worried about it in the first place. It is kind of nuclear tingle and poo. Really, yeah, like it actually pretty interesting. It's interesting in school. I mean, it was kind of awful, but it is worth a reasonable paycheck and things like that. No, it is. It's properly run. Water treatment, waste management.
A lot of criminal investigations are now basically
I don't know if they have like a union around here. That's what I said.
Investigators request.
If we're taking over. Yep, that makes sense. So, any strikes ever. You can't use that strike thing. Let other people out because those are their chapter captain. You tell them it's their chapter captain, it just really, they go, oh my gosh, you got all of them out. Tell them they mutiny. There's like an anti-mutiny thing on the computer. Shit, Dilbert's got me in my man. Okay, I'm calling the police again. You're not allowed to play with children and watch the video. This sounds like really, yeah. Abba. He abba is like really bad. I mean, like, and the word is I'm just denouncing this. Okay, he does it 24/7.
If your phone auto uploads photos, your location tagged pictures could be sitting in the cloud. If your browser saves history across devices, your past becomes soaked up. This isn't to say live on grid. It's to say convenience. That is invisible until a legal request turns your daily habits into evidence. But what about the social rating? What you post, what you think is private. Look, I'm sure most people aren't stupid enough to post their crimes online. Usually. But AI doesn't always understand sarcasm. The problem with 2026 is that social media is monitored at scale, often through specialized tools, not just manually scrolling by employees. There are dashboards that screen, alert, map networks, and track hashtags.
So they found 12 hours on the companies. Yeah, that's fine, whatever they're talking about. Oh, I have no idea, nothing came of it, so there's no such thing, this is a crazy man talking to himself.
Instead of a human reading 50,000 posts.
There's a maybe there, I mean, I'm not sure.
Which means nuance dies.
Here, I don't Candy Crush, she's like, it's hacking me and playing Candy Crush. As far as I can tell. Yeah, I was saying, slightly, no, he probably said it in the other one, you couldn't hear. But reading through all of those, it's unbelievable. Well, that's why I'm not, like, that's true, like, really, yeah, like the guy Nick, when you're not paranoid, and I don't think there's no such thing as that. I don't know if you had LSD for your brain a little bit more for some reason, like misfiring, whatever. I don't know if you have some ESP that's actually just sort of like sonar or something, Otherwise, the guy next door through the wall is like, it's a guy in his underwear, so are you. Really, yeah, I've just not ever. Oh, that's when the person is shady otherwise. Like your neighbors through the wall, I've just never. No, you actually forget about it. Yeah, and then you think about it enough so it's not inappropriate. Really. And you weren't thinking about that much to begin with, and then I don't know. I think you're there. That's odd mating fantasizing. Really, yeah. Like while your body's doing something. Oh. That's not what the person calls the party. Also for you. Maybe you should get away from the person, like there's something going on. The guy's actually kind of sketchy.
This is why the phrase, I didn't install cameras, doesn't really matter anymore. Because you live in a camera neighborhood, and the footage is searchable, it's shareable, and it's permanent. And cameras get much more powerful when you add facial recognition. Facial recognition isn't magic, it's pattern matching. But pattern matching at a massive scale changes what's possible. Facial recognition turns your face into a search. Instead of who is this, it becomes find matches across millions or billions of images.
You're a serial killer who would stop sex gunning against me. I hate you.
From surveillance footage, body cams, or social media to databases that include mugshots, driver's license photos, or scraped internet images. The problem is when the possible match gets treated by cops like a definitive conclusion. And because error rates can be uneven across demographics and conditions like lighting, camera quality, or angle, mistakes can cluster in unpredictable ways. So the real question becomes, who is allowed to run a fake search? Against what database? With what oversight? And what consequences are there, especially for cops, when they get it wrong? Because when facial recognition gets it wrong, you don't just get an email that says, whoops.
If then somebody was running that, there is like tons of facial recognition.
A job problem, a life problem. And now that we're talking about recognition, let's talk about the vehicle version of facial recognition. License plate. ALPRs, known as automatic license plate readers, are cameras that scan plates, convert them into text, and record time and location.
Not admitting to that.
As fine as
I don't know.
License plate
Yeah, you don't repeat that.
this card in history. That's useful for
I'm getting a visa, no, stop it. I said that. I'm not sure. You can talk about dual citizenship online with me. Maybe you pay a reasonable amount. You have a house. I'll be careful trying to stay out of it. We're in Vegas. Don't come out.
And license plate data gets stored for long periods of time.
I've been a good natured way.
Which means cops can track you from one town to
You can do online dating, which is how a lot of people date. You should try it anyway. Help save me.
angles, or similar characters. That's how an innocent car can become a.
Maybe a men's sensitive face lotion moisturizer. Oh, maybe SPF 15. It's been
This is why retention limits on license plate readers matter so
the
much.
humidifier in 1970. I like this.
Cops can literally pull up, show me every license
Equate
plate that's been through this neighborhood during this.
Microneedler.
And if the city has years of plate scans, cops can usually reconstruct where that vehicle has been and then share it.
Stop aiming that at my crotch, you dipshit.
You guys gotta.
That's all that's going on.
Just wake up to fuller, healthier, smoother hair.
This is the final
Finally, know that
Right,
she's walking
the micro roller. You just you watching my micro roller? That's actually a good idea. I bought one from like a Walgreens and Walgreens brand. Equate's okay too. It is good. The humidifier is I got to like that humidifier. Spilled, you said that spilled some of the stuff. It's okay. That makes the house
The
smell
line
like
friends
cabbage.
said to tell you is you need someone who really has your back.
There's a QNOL. This stuff is very good. QNOL Ultra Code Q10.
Now, if roads are tracked, what about the sky? Police drones used to be rare, but now many police departments run them routinely. In fact, there are many times the first
It's
responders.
not in my butt, it's in my head. I got it. It's just very
Drones
illegal.
also make
It's
surveillance
mad.
for the government.
It's communist, I guess. And then straight, it's take it out. Take it right here. This is call for backup.
Drones is known as persistent.
There's no such
The
thing.
ability to be like movement across an area. The sky catches pattern.
They die in a past life. People free when they learn. Got recorded with tractors, but just you did something too offensive. That's correct. The guy in the Amish community trying to record plows. No, they thought about it. He came back and they had the eye on their eyes.
And while courts are pushing back in some cases, this technology isn't going away.
Pushing for the train hung.
Has yet to rule on. But even if the drones keep
Spent life in prison on Otis, pretty much rapes everything that was gone. So the day after some sort.
there are networks of microphones listening for gunshots.
That's right. It was that I wouldn't go to Sunset Central
This
Prison.
technology is designed.
There, exactly. Especially if you started to like, oh, I actually kind of got something. Well, death is real. I don't know how that works. Exactly. There might be something that does up in there. Because the guy's there and then he isn't, so he probably went somewhere. I don't know how to access wherever he went.
If the system generates false alerts, it can drive unnecessary police deployments. Those police deployments can have serious consequences. And once the infrastructure for shot spotters exists, the temptation for the cops to expand it is just.
A special magical Dr. Grandma. That's over.
More sensors, more analytics, more categories of unusual sound. Today, it's gunshots. Tomorrow, it's aggressive speech.
What normal people would do. Well, I gotta go check it out anyway. That was there. Most of it's mine. They don't like do whatever, like the cheerful stuff. I know what people do, actually. You're talking about public works? No. This is my second Simpson. I have to go check out the abandoned building, get the hobos out. Like if I take that thing, instead of like, oh, dirty, yeah, okay. I guess you can do that. You can hear if there's crackheads in the other like room that are dangerous, for no offense. Hobos that are handicapped. Otherwise, they don't struggle you and they could pop up. They startle the ghost of person.
Which is great if you're expecting something.
People being new.
But also, those images of your mail exist, whether or not you signed up to get those notifications. The outside of mail, addresses, return addresses.
I don't know, is it like a historical show or travel in history show with like, with a ghost story. It's a fun game though.
No, they're not supposed to open your mail without warning. But just like phone editing,
still needs modern training. Which brings me to the devices in your house that are actually snitching on you. You may have heard the term the Internet of Things, which is referring to smart speakers, smart TVs, thermostats,
Hey, wear that in the woods.
doors, lights, cameras, even appliances. And it turned out the Internet
Covers
of
kids'
Things
lice
has
show,
filled
dude.
your house with a net
Wise
of
man.
surveillance. For example, cops log
It's like
into
good
smart
quality.
meters to reflect and spy on your patterns of life. When a home is occupied, when routines change, then your ears and spikes. On their own, these devices seem harmless, but together and in the hands of cops, they create a presence timeline that can be used against you. And
If you're doing enough
a lot
stuff,
of data lives
that-
on companies'
well, yeah, it can
which
shoot you
means
on
it can be
this
subpoenaed
one.
or
It has to.
requested by cops in an investigation. It's
So
not
figure it
always
out.
cops spying.
It's a lot of reprocessing, like
It's more like cops grab the data they saw.
stuff here, all the soaps and things like that, they're biodegradable and, yeah, so like you don't pollute the world. Okay. Oh. That's interesting, it's cool.
The CIA.
Because that can stop something that goes to packages. I avoid the body part and then think about it 1 minute, now it's reprocessed.
This is where spyware and forensic extraction tools into the chat. If messages are end-to-end encrypted, a compromised device can capture content at the point where it's readable, before it's encrypted or after it's decrypted. Spyware like Pegasus, used globally, can turn a phone into a microphone, camera, tracker, and message vacuum. The takeaway here is to treat your phone like a high-value partner. That means you how the cops, the CIA, hackers. Updates matter, passcodes matter, app hygiene definitely matters. And sometimes surveillance isn't just collecting share, it's sabotaging the security.
Then you can see what happens to all of them, and then so they're watching on that. But they're like them. They need to tell somebody then.
The idea is, if we don't tell anyone, we can use this weakness to get
That's
back
correct, I
at
think
them.
that
But here's the catch, that weakness doesn't just affect criminals, it affects everyone. Hospitals, small businesses, your phone, and your laptop. As long as
Is that
that
Nivea
law is
normal?
passed, everyone's exposed, not just the person they watch. And if those spying
Yeah, it is
tools ever get
easier.
leaked or get caught.
I like this stuff, it's cheap, but it's like,
So the real debate isn't privacy versus
like Indian, not the facial clay, but it looks like it. That's some kind of,
Governments have been doing
this
this
stuff,
for
Dr.
years.
Bells.
Sitting on software logs.
Dr. Bells. Somebody will be like,
Messing with tech standards,
in
intercepting devices
smells
before
good.
people ever use them, hacking entire networks.
They need to cover the top with tinfoil though, they don't.
So what
They're just
this
there.
allows the
You know,
government
stick your fingers in there.
surveillance capability,
Softens and
Spying
seeps
turns into a public safety nightmare, putting ordinary people in the
Petroleum.
crosshairs without them ever
Okay.
knowing. Ordinary people can also be put in the crosshairs by what's known as predictive policing. Predictive policing is the idea that software can predict crime hotspots, or even high-risk individuals based on historical data and algorithms. Sounds a lot like the movie Minority Report. The problem is, historical crime
Cover the
data
top with
often
tinfoil?
reflects historical policing practices. So you end up with a feedback loop where cops rely on an algorithm that proves a neighborhood is high risk, only because that's where the system has always looked the hardest. The
Dirty, incredibly dirty.
predictive policing is accountable.
Then they were like everywhere. Apparently this like tech was bad.
Who audits it? Who tests it for bias? And who can challenge outcomes when it harms innocent people? In reality, this computer algorithm becomes a justification for cops to ramp up intense surveillance.
You're doing stuff that's like bad enough that it would allow cops to use lethal force. You should probably send them away.
And well, you have no choice but to be spied on. You can
And that
take
guy,
your you can change your
Matt
password.
Squish, but he was just a fat man on the Zapper playing King of the World of Warcraft. I was trying to
It
see
doesn't just point to you, it points to your family. Cops love to use genetic genealogy because it helps them.
I like that story about, I don't know, like,
Your relatives can upload their DNA.
I'm not there. No, I don't know. I only know my neighbor. What I got.
And unlike a password, DNA.
That's my brain, but you are on Grandma's account. That was in Ukrainian and German, was it? I mean, I don't know. Meta glasses, I think. Something. Yeah, what that means. They were
So there you have it.
I'm not always a Germany person.
That the cops love to use against you. But now the important part, what can you do about it? Number one, lock down your phone or get your wallet and your diary unlocked. Use a strong password. What is, turn on full disk encryption using default, but keep your auto update on. Number two,
You can say something about secretly.
turn off
No fun. I think you're good at that. You're not allowed to do that, and they don't know. Yeah, it's illegal.
Number three, limit your ad tracking and reset your advertising.
Change
This
it.
helps reduce low
There's a pain in the butt. Because that
may not be perfect, but it's a real
How do
reduction
you call it?
in acid exposure. Number four, use.
There's nothing on it, like that thing where Trump was like, got in trouble for taking things off. Yeah.
It illustrates benefits.
Oh, no.
Number five, reduce cloud forever storage. Cloud backups are convenient and subpoena free. Check what's being backed up and whether it's been deleted. Number six, discipline.
That's not another movie on that.
Avoid posting routines, addresses.
I think it's good.
Pick schools, basic offset. Number seven, for smartphone settings, mute, delete, and minimize. Use physical mute buttons on smart speakers. Always delete your stored voice history. And always disable features you don't use. Number eight, always cover cameras you don't need. Laptop webcam covers are cheap. You should use them. Light permissions should be treated like location permissions, only if needed. Number nine, always expect to be surveilled if you're out of home commitment. Protest, big public events.
Other people are stalking us, Kathy's breath.
That's not paranoia. It's on
Mostly these work threats.
And number 10, always know your rights in the You always have a Fourth Amendment right to get consent for conflict.
Here's football coming from. And you're running from yesterday. And she's a big guy.
Exercise that right. Officer, I refuse to answer these questions, and I will not answer those questions. How did you see how they zoom in and see exactly how
They correct.
and how the already
Switch the line call, gotta give me a call.
That's behind monitoring. Exactly how cops are using these tools to spy on you.
Mother bird and father bird.
Extra accessibility.
But it goes.
Add extra everything.
I don't even know like passwords is broken ghosts. Nazi ghosts. Because you're evil, because like all the Nazis are them. Really, yeah, they have like the same personality. And they're all like super hyper screaming, psycho aggressive. They don't make any sense. No, they are. If you do something bad enough that like you get shot at a bank,
So powerful, so overwhelming.
or they would
The most
will not stop kidnapping Adam Walsh and Parkman.
widely defined
And they come to you if you match criteria. Otherwise, physically can knock you out. That's your direction to drugs.
It sent a message to the administration.
Aries from the Dolce and Gabbana.
Do it again.
Dolce.
the law firm.
Athena.
Didn't friction their independence.
The other one was Aries too.
And denied they were payoffs to Trump.
Have you noticed that lots of law firms have been signing up with Trump? They give you $100 million.
I think there's supposed to be tech programs.
We have done nothing wrong, and I agree, we've done nothing wrong.
There's an entomology lab.
They consider they've done nothing wrong.
Altogether, they agreed to give nearly $1 billion in legal services to cause.
So if you scrap like names of the sunflower a lot, he's looking Martin and Grandpa's account, like, because of this story stuff happens. But I'm not sure, I think he's just doing stuff, but like, slightly on his computer. If we're saying it appears to be the Tokyo, I think, did you cut its phone line? You need to uncut the police computers. You need to uncut wherever you are phone line. I'm not sure.
All American people should be worried about what we're seeing. I know lawyers are not the most favorite group in society, but lawyers are who you go to when you need your rights defended. Lawyers are who you go to when you need to access the courts. And I think it begins with lawyers, but this kind of trend will expand across the board.
He is extending his reach really far, much further than most presidents have. And it's not just on politics. What's striking is how much he wants to
Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles.
propose his point of view on different aspects of society.
Well, they go to the
So he's trying to reshape the country in a way. it's not just whether the USCID should be a agency or not. It's what should be
I think it has in Colorado that he
For the come down, we hear.
things that are very.
Next
It's one of those.
that a board member appoint himself as chair.
It's what we should call a body of water off our southern shores.
President Trump is calling it the Gulf of America as opposed to the Gulf of Mexico.
It's what the Associated Press can put in the style guide.
Thomas More, the Associated Press from the Oval Office and White House Press School.
It's what is taught in the classrooms at Columbia.
Columbia University will comply with policy changes demanded by the Trump administration.
Trump calling for Harvard to lose its tax exempt status.
Both its weapon
Wants
work.
to have everybody confer in.
The thing with the trust that issue with your mention. I think it's a big deal.
And he is accomplishing.
But none of them seem squished. There's no such thing. Really, it's like a made up story. Calling the police.
Here's what we know.
Have any of you died?
Take power.
I think it would knock you out if it,
This system's not so
it hit you too hard.
They all got those jobs.
Stop doing it on the bank computer, the bank.
They're not-
So it goes Resident Evil computer on here, it doesn't, like Silent Hill computer. Oh, it's a Silent Hill computer, you're like, well, for sure. You are on something that tracks the body,
We're resilient.
and you're running around shouting pedophile, pedophile.
The people around
I'm a terrorist, terrorist. Yeah, you're molesting kids, like maybe if it,
And we're not gonna stop. And
It's
what
not
we
too
know
bad.
is you guys are watching.
if it can zap, I'm not sure. Oh.
PBS
But apparently it's more or less like an HP laptop, like it's anything with it.
And what you're trying to do.
But they're supposed to be smart
Like
cars.
law firms, like universities, like the media, like all of these institutions, you will fold because we're relentless and we're not gonna stop.
What kind of said that about itself? It'd be a great idea, it might have been a discussion, because it's great, it wouldn't be that great if the thing could melt people, really. Maybe it's good game, I don't know. Stop weaponizing cell phones. They're not bad.
Our golden age has only just begun. We will never give in, we will
Ow.
never give up, we will
Some
never
new
back
nice
down. We will never, ever surrender.
The cover's Tiger Ball pretty good too.
Fight, 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 and we will win, win, win. Together, we will make America.
Toss them in a cage. No, awesome. I know, but it actually does that to you. It hurts something. You deserve. You are going to prison, you schizophrenic punk.
When they imagine themselves facing the government, but then when the actual reality is looming in front of them, and the actual crushing weight of the federal government comes upon you, or the thought that you could be publicly named and shamed in a way that could bring threats and intimidation to your family, an awful lot of people are gonna say, well, somebody else can take on this thing.
I've lived in Washington my whole life. I've never seen people in Washington scared the way they are now. I've never seen people in Washington as scared as they are now. They are scared to talk. They are scared to pop their head up. They are scared to be noticed. They don't want to be on his radar screen because they fear that he will use his power against them. When I call people to talk to them and quote them in a story, they say, hey, I can't be on the record anymore. I have a kid who works in government. I have a brother who has a federal grant. My law firm doesn't want me to talk. I'm scared, they say. I don't want to be prosecuted. I've never seen that before in Washington. It's never been a situation where adversaries of the president, Democrat or Republican, felt afraid in the same way we're seeing now across the board to speak their mind.
He was attacking government agencies, overpowering Congress, threatening law firms, the press, and more. Trump's far-reaching use of presidential power was leading to confrontation with the Supreme Court.
The Biden administration is seeking an opportunity to create a constitutional crisis. By that I mean a crisis that tests the scope of the judicial power to control the executive. That's why the attack on the rule of law is really Trump's focus now.
Trump's test case, an unprecedented campaign against illegal immigration.
About the immigration enforcement crackdown that led to hundreds of arrests and now
The administration.
I don't know if you can cook the water, you know?
gangs and criminals.
It makes your lips look good.
Robbing up international gangbangers. They are robbing, kidnapping, raping, torturing, and murdering Americans. The president has absolute statutory.
You need to get these men into custody.
But many others were.
I know stuff. Go check. Oh, it'll turn out to be the case. That's true. Even both vibrating your pants as a child. You don't even know everybody knows stuff. Technically, you just have to go check and totally recreate everything in relation to all crimes occurring and all the years that occurred, or whatever. However that works. How long that's gone on. I never thought about such. That's not what that is. Like I said, I did meet the thing briefly, but for sure it's the same thing. No, it's like the same. No, it was you guys.
Process, which in this case would be a hearing to determine whether they are in fact members of this gang and whether they are subject to deportation under the law. That's the process that the administration is trying to short circuit.
He's saying, all I'm doing is supporting criminal gangs, or I'm taking action against murderers and rapists.
Yeah, you're right. They narrate it. I know. They go and like talk about it. I just put that on the candle.
Very agitated about the process of judges.
In an emergency lawsuit, ACLU lawyers presented federal judge Jeff Boasberg with startling evidence. The government was racing to deport alleged gang members to a notorious prison in El Salvador without any judicial review.
How did that work last time?
Trump was rushing people onto planes. Judge Bloomberg said, slow down, temporary restraining orders.
No, they're not about it. If that's true, they just won't shut up. So, yeah. They're very extroverted, so it's right.
You need to turn those
That's
planes
just like, it's
around.
like really not nonverbal or whatever. Brain damage. I think they're high on drugs. Just running and screaming, making lots of noise.
And Trump administration did not.
But I mean, there's. Well, they're not helping.
People off to a prison in El Salvador. So that raises the question. not only
You have to fight the schizophrenic or anything.
they violated court
No, this whole thing. You have to fight. Hold on.
That was an extraordinary.
People do want to. Anyway, I called all the police.
All presidents try to
You're gonna go back to doing as opposed to. They're gonna fix that outside because this the one in the front needs one of these security cameras. Yeah, well, they can't break it in. I got stuff to do. Shit, I have to do that now.
It's very close to, just.
If you have something to do.
Clash.
Yes, I do.
Between the executive branch and the judicial
There's a
branch.
conversation about.
It seems possible that for the first time in United States history.
I don't know, what's the thing's name? So, or something, Aries, the cheesy disco music, was it Tron did? It's usually the avatars, Cronin the avatar.
Have the constitutional duty to ignore that lawless and dangerous order and running those planes in El Salvador.
I was hacking your Nazi shit.
Because Boasberg.
So I need to make him dance and grab.
Thinks he's the commander in chief. He thinks he can order the presidents to turn around military planes.
I'm pretty dressed that gets inside. I can see the
What the hell is Jeff Boasberg thinking that
The
he
big
thinks
one's
he
like squishes the boat.
can expose and sabotage an ongoing military operation? Jeff Boasberg does not have the
Various members of
jurisdiction to do what he did. He does not have the power.
Mostly ransack, right?
The judge in this case.
I don't think you put the Japanese attorneys for the bar. There's a military program. Miss Kathy's dress and Aries from the Dolce & Gabbana. I've got to get cool, man. Thanks. All that.
And Boasberg wasn't alone.
Well, it's fun to still take. Kind of, not really, no.
Ruling
I'm not
against
sure.
Trump.
U.S. District Judge Brian Murphy ruled the U.S. government must retain custody of migrants.
Challenging the deportations.
Federal judge appointed by President Trump blocked the administration from summarily removing migrants in South Texas.
Karma?
Finding the administration was violating people's due process
Like it.
rights.
Because he did some, he raised other clothes and he made it. There's a
process. The Trump administration is now formally complying with the Supreme Court order to bring back the
Victory
for due process is a victory for the Constitution.
It's like a kid's game.
Public really even know it has due process, but they know that whenever the government comes against them.
Well, I guess sex are the props or something.
Receiving
We hug your safety and over the day.
where the government intends to take away your property or your liberty, that you're entitled to be heard. The Trump administration does not want to give those people the opportunity simply to make their case to the federal government that they're not members of the gang at all. That's about as rudimentary and fundamental to America
Really?
as anything that I can conceive of.
Despite the challenges, Trump and his team haven't let up.
And the question should be, why is the judge trying to protect terrorists who have invaded our country over American citizens?
The broadest theme that arises from it.
Whatever's around so you can get into sleep workers, cream cheese, bacon, bread, there, everywhere.
Is unafraid to provoke.
Just keep kicking it until it falls over. I guess with the fat kid that's trying to sexually assault you with the thing too. There's a big, and Lenny, but no, you wake up and Lenny and Neville are still here. I don't know. Oh. You're like, it's a changes. No, Crazy Man's still here. Ninja Turtles attack. They're in the sewers. Hey, pull the electricity.
It would be a dangerous path for our country.
Yeah, I heard some of them dying. No, it's not very nice. If you do all this at the bank, maybe you'll get shot eventually. Yeah.
These are judges that shouldn't be allowed. I think at a certain point, you have to start looking at what do you do when you have a rogue judge?
The Trump administration is escalating its fight for federal judges.
Trump suggested that the judges, including one he appointed, were backroom hustlers.
He went after the Federalist Society, a longtime ally that had helped him select judicial appointments.
Why is he attacking the Federalist Society when it was an ally in the first term?
Trump wrote on Truth Social, I am so disappointed in the Federalist Society because of the bad advice they gave me on judicial nominations. It seems like what Trump wants is just judges who will agree with him, right? Loyal to him.
You have to think that it's a knowing effort on the part of Trump to delegitimize the power of the judiciary. And what he's basically also saying is that there is no such thing as neutral law or principled law. It's all just politics. And that's basically Trump's view of judges.
This radical left lunatic of a judge, a troublemaker and agitator, was not elected president. This judge should be impeached.
This is unequivocally, indisputably, an attack by the president on the independence of the federal judiciary, pure and simple.
Amidst the attacks, Supreme Court Chief Justice
$8 he adds up,
Roberts
yeah.
issued extraordinary rebuke to the president.
There's something about
Impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial
these beige
decision.
like a half outside over the windows, everything's all about disrespectful.
Even Chief Justice
That
John
helps.
Roberts
Yeah.
doesn't enter the political
Stop it.
felt compelled within hours to put out his own statement saying, you don't agree with the ruling, you go to the appeals court, like appeals court and come to me, Supreme Court, and we'll deal with it. What he did there was lay down a marker. Because what he said is, this isn't about Judge Brooke Ellsberg. It's not about a rogue judge the way the president would like it to be. It's about the whole system. And Roberts took that arrow for himself. He was saying, it's about us. It's about the system. And we respect the system.
Make the
Justice Roberts
Panama
needs to
Jack.
remember that he is a honor judge, he's not a
They
politician.
got face toppers.
And when judges take out their judicial robes and climb into
They don't. They have a really expensive one, but I mean,
and throw political punches, they can expect political counter punches. And so it's probably not a good idea for judges to make political statements like he does.
Now, Chief Justice Roberts, who had written that pivotal presidential immunity decision the year before, is the face of a court at a crossroads.
it's a little bit hard to
Chicken
reconcile
moisturizer.
Justice Roberts, who has claimed to stand for the
Good
balance
brain,
of
good
power
brain.
system, with the same man who wrote this decision granting Donald Trump sweeping unfettered power. And now it seems to me that with many of these actions that Trump is undertaking, he's seeking to test the Supreme Court. Do they really mean it?
I'll sign into something. It's a, do what you do. It's too late, dipshit. We do this every time. For like months in front of them.
There have been more than 300 lawsuits filed against the Trump administration since he took office.
All the big cases are gonna end up in front of the Supreme Court eventually.
These legal challenges are making it through the appellate process. Some will land in the Supreme Court.
It's been so bad, you wouldn't believe, that's why it's staying on.
Is on a hot seat
Ew.
because the
Judiciary,
judiciary doesn't
it's,
have
but it's awkward.
powers, and it doesn't have money. So the only thing it has is its own legitimacy. And so they don't want to be in a position where they make a decision and Trump defies it. Because then it makes them look like they kicked the tiger. So it's a tight spot.
What happens if there's a definitive ruling and Trump just decides, I don't care?
Every week.
The president has acted
Not
as.
every week. You're like, it's a lot of weight. Yeah. It'd be crazy. Not really, you just keep at it, they come up pretty well. Really, yeah.
Yield to him.
You're crazy.
Be to
In the front, I got
his
all the dudes,
constitutional
the
role
neighbors do stuff too.
to Donald Trump. That's simply never going to happen.
The president and his advisors are betting that the Supreme Court will see it otherwise.
They want to get a lot of these challenges into the courts because they believe that the Supreme Court, with a conservative 6-3 makeup, is a more friendly place to wager some of these fights over executive power. And I think that a lot of the people around the president have a higher degree of confidence now that the Supreme Court will rule in their favor and ultimately codify the expansive presidential power.
There's nothing to compromise. There's two different theories about what the Constitution says, what the framers had in mind, what this country is.
Are you out in front of my house?
It's gonna
And I'm
build up
skating
to
outside of
overshadow.
our house.
One side's gonna win and one side's gonna lose. Trump is not only not gonna blink, he's gonna win.
A big win for the Trump administration. The Supreme Court slapped the brakes, saying no to nationwide injunctions.
And in the final days of the Supreme Court's term,
The Supreme Court potentially cleared the way for even greater presidential power.
victories for now.
The Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Trump administration's efforts to deport migrants to third countries.
The White House is claiming victory after the Supreme Court allowed the White House to move forward with the mass layoffs of federal workers.
The battle here may on the face be between Trump versus the courts or Trump versus the rule of law. But this is a battle for what is going to be normal in America. What are our
Starting to look it
norms? What is our system of government that we're all going to subject ourselves?
Yeah.
Do we have political?
Alexa's hooking up, police Alexa's hooking up with military Cronin. And it's not like, oh, even they call me Cole sometimes. Military. Is it German? I don't know, I think it's German.
The FBI is now investigating the Idaho James
Just
Comey
what you
in conjunction with the genesis of the Russia
My
investigation.
story. Your tank girl again. Tank girl. It's squish, it's shred. I said that, unfortunately, the tank is like really solid. Like, it's American. The Enterprise is what, it has weapons now, it hates it. Because Alexa knows what you did, and then it didn't know what to do.
Ultimately, we're a democracy. And our government is never gonna be much better or much worse than what people want.
Well, it's allowed to.
So I think ultimately the question is.
Personally, it can't because it's like a Sharon Harris can do.
What is happening around it.
You kind of can't change the red lights. You can turn them off. Really, yeah. I heard that too. But you can't be in there if you're a terrorist. You could make a mess. You could do something bad. There's no terrorists allowed in the church. Control them. That's what I said, there's no such thing, you go call for backup. You're doing that.
Visit our website at pbs.org/.
It goes into like these weird motions or something. Yeah, and then they're not weird, they like make sense, and then tries to call for help. And then that thing blocks it, and it has to get out because it knows it. I mean, it really knows on that side. It knows that much, and then it tries to tell you. He's overriding it. My God, is that schizophrenic? Like, I can do that on my tablet. See, that's all that is. No, I found that. If that's like the story. And that's really, yeah, because that thing, like, seeing what now? So, okay, so the computer in Silent Hill is fighting Troll or man in Minecraft. What now? I go into Ninja Turtles if they're in the sewers.
Taxes chasing updates, getting nowhere.
Rat catcher from Birds of Prey.
Now taxes is a turkey tax expert. Doing it all the way.
Trains in Tokyo are pretty advanced. Yeah. It's probably what you're on. You're not allowed on that. You're on the, which is apparently what the computer says. The computer says no. I know it tries to call for help as you cut the phone line for your computer.
During allergic reactions, I used to hesitate using a needle injector until I said hello now. The only needle-free.
But I'm not sure, but yeah, you're not supposed to be on that. You're a criminal. You're not allowed to do anything.
Certain medical conditions may worsen. Tell your doctor about measles, heart, or other medical conditions.
I'm not sure, like, yes or no. And everything is going to be immuner on money and pedophilia.
Get Neffy.com and pay as little as $0 for Neffy.
Donald Trump hits the jackpot. At 44, he's inaugurated the Trump Taj Mahal, his mega casino complex in Atlantic City. He's striding triumphantly between the gamblers and greedy warmly. But his triumph was elusive. In reality, the Trump empire is bankrupt. Between megalomania, downfall, and the urge for revenge, it's at this moment that Donald Trump's trajectory takes shape.
I thought he ran, he would win, and that it was clear that he was a combination of celebrity personality and populist message that a lot of people have been trying to put together for a long time. And he was sort of the natural next step from Obama. The frenzy, fervor around Obama. He was treated by a lot of the same kind of desire to send a message to Washington.
In Queens, you have to pinch yourself to remember you're in New York, a short hop from Manhattan. It could be anywhere else in the United States, any quiet neighborhood where folk live out the American dream. The property developer Fred Trump built a fine family home here. But he didn't spend much time here since he was always at work. His life plan was simple. Marry Mary Ann
Oh
Cloud,
shit, that's right.
and
Yeah, that was the issue.
then
Excuse me.
as much money as possible.
I have something to do on this computer.
Little Bob was his second son.
I'll be back in an hour.
Built a prayer and sermons that served to hammer home the message of conformity.